Howdy, howdy, howdy. 9 months yesterday, 9 months. And it's getting a little frustrating, a little slow. Just a quick update, I suppose. Uh, so, where are we, big picture? So, we had the fire on January 15th, and it took 6 months for AAA to get its engineer to complete its job. It was a very sloppy job, and I'm not technical on these matters, but there were lots of issues with it. Lots of miscommunications, lots of trying to get them out, trying to fix things, them missing things, going to the city, having to go back to the city, I don't know how many times, to finally provide uh, the permits. So without the permits, without that scope from that perspective, you can't do anything. So that's 6 months right there. During that time, also, we had a general contractor representing us and a general contractor representing AAA show up on the site. I was there, my public adjuster. Now, remember, the public adjuster represents me. Should be called a private adjuster, I suppose, but that's the name. I don't recall anybody from AAA actually being there. All parties seem to agree that it was a complete and total gut job. We're going to have to go down to the studs and kind of rebuild, take off the garage, take off the floors above, the supports for that will be needed, more shoring, rooms above, bathroom right inside, part of a roof. It was going to be a big job, and then kind of rebuild from there. So we were surprised in July, I think it was late July, mid to late July, when AAA gave us a letter saying, here's what we think this will cost you, here's what needs to get done, here's a check, and we have our guy ready to go and do this, and we think it can be done in 6 months, and here's money for your living expenses for the next 6 months, which takes you to a year, and we're not giving you anything else. That was basically what they said. There was no discussion. The scope that they came back to us with did not include what we discussed. It was, it was a flimsy few-page scope item. Drywall remains everywhere. Well, some has to obviously come out. There was wipe downs. When we had gotten together, all cabinetry was coming out. All drywall was coming off. The scope was a small, diminished amount. And we were shocked at what happened. So they either didn't get the message from the general contractor or they dismissed it. It was very disappointing. And with most of the things that I've had interactions with AAA, they've been very good in terms of moving paper and going from point A to point B, but never actually communicating with any depth on an issue. Just simply, where's this, where's that, here's a check, and so forth. So we went back and we looked at items, and we put together a 56 or 60-page, very painful list of things that need to get done. Again, I'm not an experienced individual to be able to tell you that you need X amount of feet of twine, let alone how much electrical wire. But it went down to that nitty-gritty, cabinetry and so forth. I looked at it and saw a ton of things that were missing, which happens. And because I know my house, obviously, I knew that we had, well, let's just take a small little item, for instance. I have those USB ports for the electrical outlets. So I've got electrical outlets, and then I had two USBs. And I didn't make every outlet in the house that way, but when we redid the house about 3 or 4 years ago, the majority of those outlets were changed. So a $2 item suddenly was a $25 item, and they didn't have that, which was fine. We added it in, but there was tons of things like that, big things, small things. Our appliances, which we had just bought, were somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 when we had purchased them 3 years ago. Those same appliances today were like 26 or 27,000. The guys that were working for me didn't have that, which was fine. We corrected it. So by the time we went back to AAA with this very detailed list, it was more than double. That's how little that they had given us, that they had said, more than double, which we thought from the beginning would be a very high number. We're waiting, we don't hear, we're waiting, we don't hear, we're waiting, we don't hear. Suddenly, a week ago yesterday, I get a letter from AAA saying, we demand a, what was the term, appraisal. In the policy, it says that either party, can request an appraisal, which is kind of like an arbitration thing, if you will. And it's an expensive process. Basically, both parties have 20 days to find an appraiser. Each party pays for their own appraiser, okay? And so I need to, under this scenario, I would need to go in and hire somebody to go step by step, everything that my general contractor has already done that came in, and then meet with these other guys. And they need to come to agreement. If they don't come to agreement, or where they don't come to agreement, then both parties pay for what's called an umpire. So it's a difficult thing because, one, I don't have to do it apparently, so it's just kind of like either party can ask to do it. They never came back to us and said, here's what you gave us and here's where we've got issues with it. Let's have a discussion. They simply just said, let's go to, for want of a better term, arbitration. No discussion. And that's kind of how it's been with AAA the entire time. So, meantime, the clock's ticking on these 20 days. I don't really know what these 20 days means. I don't know what I'm giving up. They have not shown any sign of coming in themselves and looking at it. They've just sent people out. I've only met this adjuster once or twice, and when he came in, the first thing, as you may recall, he said, oh, this isn't that big of a deal, and we can have you in 6 or 8 months. I'm at 9 months. They didn't even respond until month 7 with what they think it would cost, or month 8, month 7. So it's very frustrating, and I think we're exploring. I'm trying to come up with a compromise where, can't we bring a third party in right now? Or you guys show up and see it yourselves. Let's get the parties together to discuss what do you think we're wrong first before we start having additional expenses. They will not rescind that letter. So the 20 days ticks on. I think we're at day 9 today. And they say, well, if we come to agreement, they came back to us yesterday and said, well, let's get together and basically meet up there, which is great, but they won't rescind the letter, so the clock's still ticking. We'll rescind the letter if we come to agreement on what needs to get done, which is strange because it took them 7 months to come to agreement for them to say what needs to get done. But yet, they seem to think that we might be able to come to agreement in a matter of days. But yet we're so far apart, and they haven't shared with us any of their analysis of what we've done and what they think's wrong. So it's just getting up there, and it's going to be a clash of egos. From their perspective, they're saying, look, you've got a general contractor that's going to come in and wants to make a lot of money. By the way, I had 2 general contractors coming in there, and both were in a very high level. So we shared the second one with them late last week as well. On their side, they've got somebody that may be rather competent, may not be, but they certainly want to continue to get work from AAA. They've already put their reputation on the line. They have zero incentive to say why they were wrong, and it's disturbing, to say the least. Let's see if I'm even recording. I am. All right, so this is turning into a long thing. I meant it to be just a few minutes, but I think I'm getting the essence of everything here. So now we're talking about how to move this forward. I'm reached out. I've got a few names of bad faith attorneys because I think that's effectively what we're dealing with. I can't understand why they cannot answer us, why they can't seem to speak to these questions. So it's very, it's a drag. It sucks. So the next couple of days are going to be critical, I suppose, in terms of direction that we go in and how we go about it. I'm not averse to bringing an attorney and have them show up at this meeting they want to have while the clock ticks on, because I frankly don't understand what this clock ticking does. What they're going to be able to then put in evidence if it should go to trial with respect to, well, we tried the 20 days, but they didn't do anything. So I had asked, I put forward yesterday, why don't we not rescind the letter, but just stop the clock while we all try to meet up first. So trying to find compromises. So that's being explored at the moment. With respect to the other things, it's all still kind of handling one thing at a time. We had a gas leak last month. It wasn't a big deal, but it was at the before it entered the house, so I had them out there fixing that. Still trying to get sanitation charges reversed. Having battled the city for hours on that, it's stupid. I spoke to somebody the other day about all these little issues. He goes, "Makes you want to set fire to the world," which is a great quote. Trying to get sewer charges reversed. We're not using the sewer. My water bill was something like, I don't know. My water bill was like, I forgot now. It was small, but my sewer bill was a multiple of that. Now I know that's calculated based on last year's usage and so forth. I checked in last year. They said, well, you've only been a client with us for a year and a half. Been there for 20 years. So anyway, so I'm working on that. Went to the house yesterday. We've got Santa Ana winds, the tarp that's holding the two holes. There might be more, but at least the two that I know of from the environment was ripped off. So we need to get that up. So it's just, it doesn't end. Not a happy camper. I want these videos to become, this is awesome. We're building, we're moving forward. I may be looking for a new place to live in 3 months. This place is way too expensive. They're saying they're not going to pay, even though it's, from my perspective, it's their fault. I might need an attorney to do it. Blah, 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 blah. So, how's your day? All right, I'm looking up at the television. Looks like the market's up 425 points. That's a good thing. We'll take it. And I suppose insurance stocks are way up given how some of this behavior is kicking in. So with respect to AAA, not a happy camper. Their automobile side has been great from the beginning. We've had all sorts of issues with them, issues which required us dealing with them, and they've been great. We're going to have to rethink our entire relationship with them, but not now, obviously. We need to keep this going and pay those bills. But I would otherwise, at this moment, pick up the phone and move to somebody else ASAP. Just move everything over, take the credit, get a check back from AAA for the balance of what's ever on my policy and move on. Because you go to an insurance company for many reasons, but there's people said, do you have enough coverage? I always knew I had enough coverage, and I went with AAA because I figured they were a great name and they would stand by it. But it seems that they're not standing by it. They're obviously quite liquid, and they're a safe counterpart. It's not like I've given them the money, they disappeared. But they're not putting in the effort or the diligence. I don't know if they're incompetent, if they have I'm sure all their literature says that they're here for the family and for you, but they're not here for me. So we'll probably be making a change when all this is over. My guess is I'll probably be making a change with me when all this is over. So anyway, have a safe, good week. And if you happen to know of anybody who's considering buying or selling a house, just interested in getting evaluations, I know a great realtor who can come by and walk you through the process. Again, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.